great pleasure to introduce a significant character who has joined with us today for the Career Connect podcast series. Dr. Sanika Vijaysekara is a senior lecturer of the Electrical, Electronic and Telecommunication Department of General Sir John Kothawala Defence University. Dr. Sanika graduated from Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology with a first-class bachelor degree in Information Technology, completed her master's degree in Telecommunication from AIT Thailand. Proceeding to her postgraduate studies, Dr. Sanika is now a PhD holder in engineering from CU University, Thailand. Let us now hear this amazing, resourceful individual to address us from her years of experience in this field. Okay, madam. So, first of all, madam, what do you consider to be the most important developments or advancements in electronics and telecommunication engineering in recent years?
Okay. Now, as an academia, as well as my target audience is mostly are undergraduates who are following electronic and telecommunication degree at Kothawala Defence University. So, under that, you're asking the most advancement.
Advancements.
Right? So, electronic and telecommunications, someone can say, yeah, it's two different fields. That's true. But now, in our curricula, you are getting both electronic knowledge as well as how they apply in the telecommunication. So that means the communication perspective. So actually, as an example, if we take the coronavirus, the entire system in any country, they became virtual, right? So virtual communication, as well as in order to make everything virtual, right? The equipments and everything also comes under electronics perspective. And in order to have the communication, right? Maybe wireless, wired, or maybe from 2G to up to 6G, now all the communication patterns happen through the telecommunications. So therefore, I can say our area, the area that you are going to be an expertise, it will never die. Definitely, you have the more trends. That means the new day by day, it's developing. The technology is developing. So when those who are following this kind of technology-based increase, especially engineering-based, these are our degree is an engineering perspective. So definitely there are more opportunities and advancements.
Yeah, madam. And how do you stay current with the new technologies and advancements in your field?
Now, as I mentioned, I will perspective undergraduate based on their curricula, what they can learn about the future, that future trends I can tell. Right, when we consider the first 4 semesters, right, in your curriculum, that okay, those are mainly theory-based concepts, right? Electronics as well as telecommunication, but there are you have to follow some electrical modules, mechanical, civil engineering as well, in order to get the basic idea. And after the 4th semester, you will do your own individual project, right? And from that one, in that individual project, you have to apply what you have learned. The concepts what you have applied, it is a re-engineering concept, right? And create some kind of a product, tangible product at the end. So at that perspective, you will identify, okay, these technologies are available. Now, most of your projects nowadays, you are applying even image processing, you will learn in the 5th semester, but you will apply it in advance by learning by yourself, right? Because you that means when you are implementing something, right? When you want to know about that one, you will learn it by yourself, right? So then you will identify the new trends like deep learning, machine learning, and how to do the image processing, these things. You are the one who's telling, okay, we have to do these things we are following, right? And how to create a network, mesh network, right? I'm creating a mesh network. How the communication happen. Those concepts comes from your side as an individual developer, right? So then you can identify, okay, what are the new trends available, and when you are identifying a product, I'm taking that individual project For an example, in order to answer your question, when you are taking a product, you will identify how it is built and what are the new technology. And ultimately, at the end, you will tell, okay, these new technologies I have learned and these things I have applied in order to make this product smart, right? So I think I answer your question, right? I'm not answering into a in depth, but in a way a fresh undergraduate can understand. I will answer.
Okay, madam. And how do you see the field of electronics and telecommunications engineering evolving in the future?
So that's why I mentioned earlier as well. Evolving in the future means now. If I go, that means now. So far, I have discussed about curriculum, how an undergraduate electronic and telecommunication undergraduate, what he or she will learn. But in the future means definitely when you are graduating, when you are having a degree, right? And there are so many professional courses also available because now, for an example, students who moving with the networking side, they can do CCNA, CCNP, and the auditing side, security side. Now, the main thing is electronic and telecommunication. The perspective is very wide. You can choose. That means you can open your that means you can market yourself to the wide area of. That means you can market yourself to the wide area of job market. Right? We cannot say, okay, you will be an electronic engineer. We can't say. You may apply it in different way. So in the final year project or something, if you apply image project, so the industry will take you in different perspective and take it to another different job title, right? So I cannot say you will be this kind of engineer, but you have a broad area in order to market yourself, right? And definitely, it will be day by day, as I earlier mentioned, it will be developed because we are working with the telecommunication industry, and in Sri Lanka, electronic market is very less. But when we consider the outside Sri Lanka, the electronic market is really available. That means job market is still available.
Yeah, madam. And how would an undergraduate move into the academic side of ET engineering?
Yeah, those who would like to move, that means after graduating, who follow the electronic and telecommunication degree program, someone wants to move with academia. So definitely the academia means in any university, not in Sri Lanka, also they consider a very good flying colors, right? So flying colors means maybe if you have a class, that will be an advantage for your application. And also, if you want to be an academia, the further studies is very important. That means master's, PhD level, postdoctoral level. That means mainly if you are a good researcher, if you are a good thinker, an analytical thinker, and you can think in a different way and analytical. So definitely you can be a good academic.
Yeah, madam. Can you discuss any experience you have working with international clients?
Yes. Now, when it comes to international, if I consider it in a research way, actually they are researching day by day in different perspective. And also what I have understand is collaborating with the industry. Most of the international universities, we do have collaboration, the projects with industry. Because of that, we can learn from industry, and also we can identify what are the new trends and what actually the industry wants. Right. Same time, we can market ourselves and show them, okay, we are doing this kind of research, right? So these research, these are the output. So we can market our work as well. So in the international way, and also they are updating their curricula and everything day by day. That means compete with the world, and also because of that, the passing out student, they do have a good job market. They can market at the end. They can market themselves.
Yeah, madam. Is there any specific skills that we need to develop before entering into the industry in terms of software and hardware?
Yeah. It's like this. I will once again perspective undergraduates. I can say like this. After completing your 6th semester, you have to start your industrial training. So that is a 6 month training period according to your curriculum. So during that period, actually you will identify what are the things I need to improve myself and what actual industry needs. right? Maybe not only the technical perspective, right? Maybe you have to improve yourself. Soft skills, right? Communication skills. Some students, they may have very good education background, but they don't know how to talk, right? So you will understand it when you move in the industry, when you work with them, you will understand. So after completing that industrial training, but that means as an adult student, you will understand yourself. Okay, what should be my next step, right? And what are the things I should improve? So then you will identify whether I need to do more professional courses. Can I this having a degree is enough for me to enter to the market, right? So what are the things I should do, and what kind of final year project I should do in order to market my ability, skills, in order to show what I can do, what are the things that should be with others. So I think in this I'm talking to the undergraduates, right? Those who are following the degree. So in such a way, you can identify.
Yeah, madam. Can you talk about any specific tools, software, or any equipment that you commonly use in your work?
Yeah, in my work, the tools mainly. I did my PhD as well as master. I scratch from that means I did the coding from the scratch, right? So the PhD study I used Python language. Earlier I used MATLAB, but the Python was available for free, and also all the libraries are available, very convenient. And nowadays it has market, very good market. So equipment means it's depend on the work that you are doing, right? So what I can say is, if you know C language, you can learn any language, any programming language. And if you know kind of a embedded programming, now I started my journey with big microcontroller, right? So if you know about any embedded programming side, you can program any equipment that means embedded component as well. The main thing is you should be a self-learner in order to learn it.
Yeah. And madam, what are the best companies in Sri Lanka for ET undergraduates for internships as well as long-term employment?
It's a long-term employment and internship, of course. Our students, they do get from Dialog, Telecom, Mobitel, Hutch, Huawei, the telecommunications sector. But when it's moved with the electronic sector, we do get from Vega. But since most, even in the batch, only few number of students are moving in the electronic side. So because of that, a few number of internships actually Vega offered us. So far, it is enough for us. For of course others, we are mostly getting that is more number of internship we do get from other telecommunications sector. So the long term also, you can move with those areas. That's what, but I am telling that is only for specific to electronic and telecommunication. But there are students who are in different field. We cannot say you want to be this particular person, right? But with the skills that you have and with the things that you learn from us, you can move to the wide area and see what you really like to.
And madam, what advice do you have for an undergraduate hoping to follow masters and or a PhD for their studies?
Yeah, if you are expecting to do further studies, and if it's two perspective is there. So most of the industry, they nowadays actually they need researchers. So if you are can complete your PhD, also nowadays you can move with the industry. And but normally what we need is when you are having a PhD, moving with academia, that is normal trend. But now that trend has changed a lot. And the other thing is, if you want to move with that means understand, okay, I need to do further studies. So then you have to understand, okay, whether you are migrating or not. If you are not migrating, okay, you can settle over here in Sri Lanka, and you have to identify whether the things are available. That is the things that I want to learn further. Those degree programs are available in Sri Lanka. So some of, for an example, those who have now since your degrees and engineering degree, but next, most of the students are moving with MBA, doing for a Master of Business Administration, right? So that means they do have the management skill as well. So it's a good combination. Then you can be a man. That means in your company, when you are working in a particular company, you can go to the managerial positions as well because you have different skills. So same time, if you are migrating, So you have to identify, okay, when I'm migrating, whether I'm migrating to do the thing that I do like to do, right? Okay, maybe you can say, okay, I want to do computer engineering, right? Electronic and computer engineering. And then you have to identify, okay, where I can learn these kind of things. Right? So based on that, maybe you want to move to cybersecurity. We don't know, right? So then you have to identify, okay, in which country these kind of degree are available, and identify and how long you will have to settle over there. Those things you have to be identified. And I would like to give as an advice, if you want to do the higher studies, so the best time to understand it is a 8th semester, right? Because 8th semester you have to identify, okay, what is my next path, right? Because almost the final year projects also completed, 7 semesters are almost completed, so you are in the 8th semester, so you have to identify what is your next move.
Yeah, madam. Also, finally, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in the field of electronics and telecommunications engineering?
Yes, as an undergraduate, so
As a graduate.
As a graduate. So as a graduate, of course, now if they have their, that's why I said, you have to identify your path when you are in your 8th semester, when you are finishing your final year project. How I am going to market myself, right? What are the things I have to have, right? What are the things I should, right? So I cannot say after graduating you have to take the decision. I can't say like that. Better to identify when you are an undergraduate, okay, how to improve myself after getting degree, okay, after 5 years or 2 years time, whom I should be. That is up to you, because you should understand it by yourself. No one can force it. Should be a self-learner, as I always tell, and identify, okay, what I should do. Maybe you may not follow the same, that means electronic and telecommunication. You may do whatever you decide, right? It's up to you, but you should understand when you are an undergraduate.
So I think today it was indeed a very informative session. So thank you, madam, for sharing your knowledge with us. So stay tuned with Career Connect for more interesting interviews. Welcome back to the Career Connect podcast series. Today we have with us a very special guest, Professor Tushara Veerabhadran. He's the current director of KDUKR and a professor of electronics and telecommunication engineering. Professor Tushara completed his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Moratuwa and his master's degree with distinction in communication and information technology from the University of Bremen, Germany. He also earned his doctoral degree with distinction in mobile broadband communication from the University of Bremen. He also served as a lecturer and scientist at the University of Bremen and University of Hamburg, where he worked on industry-funded projects by Nokia and Siemens for about 8 years. He joined KDU in 2012 as a senior lecturer grade 1 and also held positions of head of Department of Mathematics and also as the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering up to 2016. From 2016 to 2021, he held positions as CEO and director at a pharmaceutical and construction company. In 2021, he joined the Faculty of Computing of KDU, and then he was appointed as a professor of electronic and telecommunication at the Faculty of Engineering KDU and director of KDU Care in 2022. So, Professor Tushara, what do you consider to be the most important developments or advancements in telecommunications engineering in the recent years?
So main thing what come into my mind today, many things based on AI technology, AI and machine learning technologies. When you take the telecommunication industry, early days we had the data transfer through the peer-to-peer networks or neighboring networks. But nowadays, what will happen? It came to the point that we are using software-defined networks and network function virtualization techniques on top of telecommunication networks. So software-defined networks means that use heavily AI and machine learning functionality. So those are the areas then coming up, and anybody who is studying in this area should have a proper understanding and knowledge about the related programming and artificial technologies and the relevant network technologies.
So how do you stay updated with the new technologies and the advancements in your field?
So if you are working in this field, you have to go ahead with the changes in the industry 4.0, because you have to go to the industry, and the huge amount of big data is handling today. That means the volume of data and the speed of the data coming to the internet, and the total internet has to handle this data effectively for the customers. Otherwise, it is very difficult to be at present and competitive domain in the market, because if you want to understand the behavior of the customer in the industry, you have to handle all the marketing strategies and digital technologies by understanding the data and the information that we are gaining at the big data. Because early days we are looking at the power sector, and we had the energy is the main raw material and basic source that we see. But today everything is happening based on the data, because if you want to be competitive in the network, because you are in the digital technology and digital marketing, so you have to understand the first thing, customer and the technologies, and how efficiently you can make the product, and also what is the customer requirement. It is the customized products are coming into the markets. It is not the mass scale production, but it's now individualized, personalized productions are coming into the picture. Therefore, you have to think about today how the internet progress and how these data are being used for the technologies and for the improvements. So therefore, I advise that anybody who is coming to this field should have a good knowledge about the programming and computer skills, as well as artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques, in order to carry out the process of telecommunication networks more effectively. Because software-defined networks, it's see as the top view of the network and give the effective source to destination mapping, rather than you are forwarding to the next hop or next neighbor. So therefore, you need to have a full picture about the network before taking any decisions. But the network also changing vastly, because data, amount of data coming to the network and speed of data coming to the network varies. Therefore, the congestion occurs different networks at very frequently, because of you cannot predict the digital marketing concepts and also usage of the internet due to these old applications that we are using, right? So therefore, I would suggest that the coming technologies with the AI, with the networking and the network functional virtualizations are the key areas that you have to think about if you are going with the traditional network, traditional communication technologies.
Okay, sir. Can you discuss your experiences working with international teams of clients?
Many international industries that I have worked, Nokia, Siemens and all other, they are moving to the industry 3.0 to 4.0, which means if you are going with industry 3.0 technologies, when you change to industry 4.0, you can enhance the performance or efficiency. We call it overall equipment efficiency. That normally, if you are running with the industry 3.0, you have about 50-60%. But if you are using industry 4.0 with AI technologies, you can increase this up to 90-95%. For example, Tesla. And also, if you take, they use heavily data, and they understand the customers and they understand the productions, and they have a lot of automations with AI control automations, and they can produce cost-effective products compared to any other industry. And they can be the guide for example, Amazon Logistics. They are using a lot of technologies, and they are in the front runners of the business, because they use the technology, AI-based technologies, in order to get maximum efficiency for their productions, about 90-95%. Just 30% increase due to the technology, nothing else. So you have to be, if you want to be compete with those companies, think about 30% efficiency change will reduce cost a vast amount, and your quality of the product and the analysis, customized analysis of each product will be automatically handled, and the customer requirement will be fulfilled in the with the quality. So I would suggest that we have to go ahead with these new technologies on top of telecommunication industry.
Yes, sir. What are the specific tools, softwares, or any equipment that you commonly use in your work?
For the telecommunication industry, you have to use a lot of simulations. But nowadays, if you want to optimize the systems, you have to use, as I mentioned, machine learning and AI-based tools. And then you have to have a knowledge about basic programming. Any students who is coming to field, any engineer who is coming to the field should have a good knowledge about at least one or two programming, especially Python. And nowadays a lot of programming is happening through the Pythons and Java. And also you need some additional knowledge about database handling and how the big data can be handled, and the statistical analysis of those data. And so the data science is one of the areas that you have to look into that. And also some scripting knowledge and basic computer knowledge they should have.
What advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in the field of telecommunication engineering?
Engineering telecommunication is very, very essential for the future generations. The reason is the huge amount of data and information has to be transferred from one point to another point. So how effectively you can transfer this data to use by customers or the industries is the challenge. So therefore, in order to have this understanding, you have to have base knowledge about engineering, and you should have a good understanding about the AI based computer knowledge, and also data analysis. Those key areas has to be studied by any student who is coming into the field, and on top of the base knowledge of the telecommunication, because you need to have the frequency and all other usages and principles of basic networking and all these. On top of that, you definitely need the AI based technologies, and a lot of soft skills also required. This is the area that you have to look into.
Okay, sir. What advice do you have for an undergraduate hoping to follow masters and or PhD studies?
So if you go into masters and PhD studies for the telecommunication sector, one of the areas that we have to look into that IoT and the security perspectives, because these are the very critical areas, that because you are collecting data from every and each source. So how the security can be implemented, privacy, and this is a large area that you have to think, because if you open your data to the public, the security aspect is important. Second, that you have to think about, to manage effectively those data handling. As I said, the all AI based technologies are the things, and also data science practices. These are the areas that I can see on top of the basic knowledge of the communication. You need basic skills, basic understanding, basic knowledge about how the communication is happening, and also point-to-point communication. All these knowledge are required, but on top of that, you are not manually handling these things. You have to make it automated on the systems. If you want to have, it is like icing of the cake, because without icing you cannot sell anything. Very difficult to, right? But if you have different icing schemes on the top of the cake, and that make more attractive, and also for the customer, and therefore you need to have these soft skills plus this computer base and the data science skills as engineer.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Tushara, for joining with us today and sharing your valuable knowledge. I'm very sure it was a very informative session, and I'm sure it was truly inspirational for all undergraduates listening in. So stay tuned with Career Connect for more interesting interviews. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Career Connect podcast series. It gives me great pleasure to introduce another distinguished engineer who has joined with us today, Mr. Chaman, who is enrolled in the Sri Lankan Institute of Information Technology and as an electronic and electrical engineer and graduated in the year 2021 and is currently working in innovations, overlooking and developing projects related to the automobile industry. So, Mr. Chaman, my first question would be you're working in Vega Innovation.
Yes.
So, what are your responsibilities?
As you said, I'm developing technologies related to automobile applications, and my main project is to develop EVCUs. Have you heard of EVCUs?
Yes.
It's basically a control unit in a car, which is like a brain. Some cars they have several EVCUs, some has just one. So I'm in charge of developing EVCUs for our recent project, automobile projects, and every technology related to them.
So, another question a lot of undergraduates might have is what do you consider to be the most important developments in electronics field in recent years?
So recently we had a huge surge in development related to AI with ChatGPT from OpenAI, then OpenAI joining with Microsoft, and then Google developing Bard to rival OpenAI, and then all sort of things happening. So now the world is mostly targeted towards AI. So in the previous years, we never thought. Now we are actually scared of AI in the recent years. So yeah, there's a huge development going in the AI side, and then we have in the embedded side. We have silicon chip development. So there were several like sort of like a wars between countries for the materials and for like machinery, especially machinery. So out of all the countries, only one or two countries produce silicon chips. Some of the countries were arguing who should get that development tools, who should get them. So there were things like that, and yeah, and even China recently started developing those tools for silicon chip designing. So yeah, there's been a lot going on recently.
So, another question that an engineer might have out in the field is as you talked about, there's so many advancements being made, right? So many researches being done. So, like, how do you stay current in your field? How do you stay current with the technology?
Ever since my university days, I had some enthusiasm for electronics. Even before that, so the only way I could gain the knowledge is from internet most of the time. So I had to read research papers, watch videos, and maybe I think you all are familiar with YouTube videos, right? So in your exams also, so you use YouTube. So yeah, basically in the field we are working on, also. So like we have a lot to learn. So the main thing we use is internet, and then we go through research papers related to what we do, and then we get the information. So that's the main source of information, and there are books as well.
So another question is, how do you see the field of electronics engineering evolving in the
Yes, as I said, AI will play a huge role in the future developments, And right now, I'll talk about Vega. So we have been developing certain applications related to autonomous driving. We hope to implement them in our future cars and sort of automating the processes. And like we have several greenhouse projects, and in them we are planning to develop AI technologies. And so yeah, electronics will be using AI a lot in the in the future development. And then another thing will be IoT. So Internet of Things will also have AI in it. And, I don't know if you know, there's something called vehicle to everything, V2X. So vehicle to everything means, so if you take autonomous driving, it only communicates the vehicle, monitors what's around the vehicle, and then gathers the data. But in V2X, what it does is it communicates with everything. So maybe vehicle to another vehicle, or vehicle to another, let's say a sign, vehicle to another traffic light. So in there, they use IoT, and if you know how the communication works, it's actually practically impossible to achieve. So there's been some development going on in that field as well.
Next question would be, can you talk about any specific tools or software or equipment that you commonly use in your work?
Yes. So I think you all are familiar with Eagle. So that's one of the tools. It's a PCB designing tool, so it's a very common tool where you can use. And then we have Altium sort of advanced PCB design tools as well, but Eagle is also fine.
So in most applications, Eagle is preferred, or do you need to use the software that you mentioned?
We mostly use Eagle because it's actually very relatively easy to use. And you can do anything with Eagle, what you do in Altium, you can do all of that in Eagle. So
it basically depends on the job, right?
Yes. And since we have like mechanical designs going on, so it's easy. We use Fusion 360 a lot, so that we can sync up the designs with mechanical and electrical parts easily. So that's why we use Eagle. And other than that, we have like AutoCAD and sort of like for drawings and all. And then, those are the common software we use. But then we have some industry specified tools, such as there's something called Vector. Vector is actually we use that in chargers a lot. We develop EV chargers, and then we use that to diagnose the devices, and we are planning to use that kind of tool in our EVs as well. And then we have for autonomous driving, we have something called NVIDIA Drive, which is a tool designed for autonomous driving platform, and it basically has about 512 CUDA cores. And yeah, those are some of the industrial specified tools we use.
So, Mr. Sampath, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in the field?
So you said starting out in the field. So may I ask you what kind of person that person wants to be? So
let's say he's an electronical engineer, so he wants to work with kids and need to go to the technical side of things. So there might also be someone who just wants to go into like serial positions. So in your experience, what is that job like?
Both actually, both should have some sort of idea and some sort of enthusiasm to electronics. And then because you can't actually when you say management, you have to have some sort of idea with the technologies related to that. So you have to have that. And if you're a technical guy, since you are doing research and development, you should have a big enthusiasm for electronics, because like only a very few people are born with a talent, uh, uh, and they actually have a huge knowledge when they join the industry. Only like 1% of people, but all the others, they have to gather that knowledge along the way. And for that kind of like, so what happens is, when you have to gather the knowledge, your projects and everything, you have to spend some extra time to get that knowledge. So for that, you have to work more than the hours given. So more than 8 hours, more than 8 hours, sometimes the weekends.
So
And
you're basically what is
yes,
basic.
yes, and without that, actually, you can't continue in this field, because nobody asks you to do that. But
The job is very
yes,
interesting.
so since we are doing actual research, because research is like we are developing something new, so you have to do a lot of reading, you have to do a lot of referencing to research pages and all. So you have to allocate some time for that. And if you're a person like that, if you are a person who can commit like that, then yes, this field is for you.
And maybe even enjoy it. Right?
Yes, then only you can enjoy the job. So I mean, you shouldn't do a job just for the sake of doing it. You should enjoy it.
So, Shravat, in your opinion, what are some of the best companies for electronics engineers?
Of course, Vega. Since I'm from Vega, I know how Vega operates.
Yeah.
And for interns, actually, it's one of the best companies in Sri Lanka, because the amount of learning you can get from Vega is huge. So we have interns who work on one project the morning hours, and then who work on another project by themselves in the night time. So actually, you have the opportunity like that as well. So if you want to learn more, you can have that. And the scope and like the projects we do, we have charging, we have EV automobile applications, and then we have AI grow, battery development, power electronics, all those, and IoT, all those things. So you have like a huge area to choose where you want to develop your knowledge. And as for employment, also, it's like a really good place to work, because I personally enjoy my work at Vega. It's something I really wanted to do since my uh, childhood. So yeah, I actually really enjoy working at Vega. And then apart from Vega, we have, I think you have heard of Synopsys. Synopsys is, it's mostly software related, but they actually develop software solutions for uh, uh, silicon chip development, sort of like FPGA development. They actually develop softwares to simulate it. And yeah, it's also a really good place to work if you are into FPGAs and into software development. And then you have Zone 24/7, where they develop embedded systems, mostly with machine learning and AI. So if you are a person who is interested in AI machine learning, then yeah, Zone 24/7 is the place. And then we have Atlas Labs, where they develop a lot of medical grade equipment, medical electronics. So if you are interested in that field, yes, that's the place for you. So those are some of the companies, some of the leading companies, and there are several small other startups and companies as well.
So, what advice would you give for an undergraduate hoping to follow masters study?
That actually has two parts mainly. So one can actually take their fourth year projects and then continue it to a master's, and some can actually do their final year projects and then publish a paper and then from that they sometimes get scholarships and get selected for masters. There's a path as well, or you can join the industry for some time, and if you're planning to do a master's in that field, the field you're working on, then there's an opportunity, because some masters require you to have a prior work experience, minimum 1 year. So that kind of masters is, you need to have that knowledge. So working in the industry first and then go with masters.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Amat, for sharing your knowledge with us. And it was indeed a very informative session. And I'm sure all undergraduates, both inside and outside of KDU, will find it very helpful. So just stay tuned with us for future episodes. Thank you. Welcome back to the Career Connect podcast series. Today, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce another excellent engineer who has joined with us today for the Career Connect podcast series. Mr. Roy was a KDU alumni who was enrolled in the 32nd intake as an electronics and telecommunication engineer and is currently working in Huawei as a solution manager. So, Mr. Roy, what do you consider the most important developments or advancements in telecommunication engineering in recent years?
When we're talking about the telecommunication advancement in electronic and telecommunication field, like I see the new trend is the cloud technology. So everyone is moving to the cloud area because like it is cost efficient, and the speed and the storage area and the backup easily can back up those our data. So likewise, it is a very effective technology in that side. So most of the people industry is going to cloud background, cloud toward clouds. Then another area is like when we talk about Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi standard is like Wi-Fi technology is like advanced, like Wi-Fi 5 to Wi-Fi 6 in last year, previous year. Now it becomes will be going into Wi-Fi 7 as well. So now it's currently in the testing scenarios, but not commercialized, and likewise. So most of the most of I see like that. Also, there can be we have in 5G advancement, also 6G testing. Those are the major advancement in telecommunication area. So we can see.
How do you stay current with new technologies and advancements in your field?
When we talking about the, it is like this. So we have to learn every day. Learn means it learning process is not when you came out of the university. So some people say you don't have to learn, so you have to get the job. It's not like that. So you have to learn day by day. So I was in when I went to Huawei. So I was in career business. It means like I am mostly working with Dialog, Mobitel, SLT. So their requirement is different. So now I am working with EBG, Enterprise Solution customers. So in there the requirement is different. So when the requirement is different, so we have to learn the new technology, because in the major career partners, they need the like requirement is like they are needed as radio or 5G technology, likewise. So when it comes to enterprise solution, they are seeking like small technology like routers, switches, firewall, desktop firewalls, APs, likewise. So they every time we have to, like when I switch my departments, so I have to learn many things. In also I when I in my career or the EB enterprise side, so day by day the client requirement is different. So we need to have the identify the what are the client requirement and give the optimal solution. That's why we are here. So when you need to give the optimal solution, you have to know the area what you're. So we have to study those areas, learn day by day, learn do the certification, do the necessary certification, because if there are no certification, either you know, but some people think you don't, because every time you will see the certification. You have like So let's say everybody knows the CCNA. CCNA, yeah. Also, when you in the field, you can learn the routing switching part. But if you don't have the certification, the people must say, "Oh, you don't have the certification. How do we trust you? How do you trust?" Likewise. So basically, I am telling like you need to learn every day. Do some certification. It's not a must, but it is coming handy advantage. Or then you can use YouTube, blogs, and you can use your leisure time to learn. I don't say you need to learn every time, but you can use leisure time, free time to learn. You can have like this. So you need to be updated, because some people when I pass out, they are when now students are passing out, they have higher knowledge than us. So we need to like learn. Otherwise, you will be losing the race. So that's
How do you see the field of telecommunication engineering evolving in the future?
so when it comes to telecommunication engineering field, so involvement is mostly in cloud area. So cloud area, big data, and the technologies become blockchain technologies coming into the field. So AI likewise, though there are many applications coming into the cloud systems, many third-party applications, many third-party application like APIs. So day by day there are many technical advancement coming into the cloud area. So not only cloud. When we talk about like Wi-Fi 5 to Wi-Fi 5 to Wi-Fi 6, there are like there are the technology, the radio technology they use, this circuit technology, the power consumption. So every time technology is telco, day by day technology is advancing day by day. So we have to keep it up. So we need to learn new things. We have to keep it up.
Can you discuss an experience you have working with international teams or clients?
So when talk about international, mostly I am working with Sri Lankan clients like past few years, Mobitel, SLT, Dialog, likewise. So in Huawei, we have in Sri Lanka office, we also working with Maldives and Seychelles. So I have recently I have working with the Maldives client and Seychelles clients as well. So talking about the Maldives clients, they are mainly Orido and Irago. So those are the main clients working with us. So they, in terms of their passionate, their passionate is very high. So they want some, they want some new technologies in their side, because they in Maldives they have many islands. So the connectivity in the island is a must because of the tourist situation, and the connection is a must. So they are more passionate into the technological advancement and the 5G, 4G, any GPON technologies, small scale Wi-Fi scenarios, SD-WAN scenarios. They are many. They have like many, what you call like they are enthusiasts on that area is very high compared to Sri Lanka. Because of the current situation, Sri Lanka might lag behind, but Maldives they are leading. So they have very good opportunities. They have very good people. They have like some guys know lot of areas. On some companies have only one or two guys, so he know lot of areas. He know implementation part, service part, everything they know. So we have in from our side we have to know that also. That is a advance we have advantage we have. So we have to know the technical background as well as the service side, and know the that side. So that is my most recent experience with working with the international clients, and it is very good experience for me as well.
Can you talk about any specific tools or software or equipment that you commonly use in your?
So when it comes to software means like there are softwares can be divided into two main categories. So some of the softwares we are using internal softwares and external softwares. although let's say an office package, although it is a external software, some companies due to their cybersecurity policies, some companies they restrict all some their features, mainly like cloud features and other features. They are very restricted. Most of the companies have good cybersecurity policies, otherwise we cannot every company has some secrets, with the clients and the stuff we do not disclose to other private people, public people. So when we becomes to use external softwares, we have to like have policies. Like, so when I talk about external softwares, we use external softwares as we have some contract registration, so we have used eSites and SCT to configuration the router switches, BOQs, and so we can use like that. So there also are internal softwares. I think most of the people don't know what that eSite or SCT. Most of the people you don't know. So when it comes to like let's say Dialog has another internal softwares where they can use. So other than likewise, so the internal softwares is a company specific. You can use any softwares in the company specific, but my thing most commonly used in used external softwares as a Microsoft package. So I think you need to have a basic idea of Excel, PowerPoint, and Word. Mostly in the telecommunication field, you have to use Excel. Excel is a must to learn. So you don't need to do certification knows like that. Basic Excel knowledge will become advantage of your field. So it will be a huge advantage to you and a value addition if you know Excel, because you can save time, because we are working with lot of data. Data means like let's say site 500 600 1000. So sometimes you have to choose what this site, what is the antenna height, what is the azimuth. So we have to record the data as well as you have to you have to sort it out, then again VLOOKUPs, VB, not the VB, like macro scenarios. It can, it can be save a lot of time to engineer. So it will be very easy when you're going to industry, when you know those softwares. So my advice is like try to learn basic knowledge of the Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. That's my basic.
What advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in the field of telecommunication engineering?
So there, I have two views that. So some might say around Sri Lanka there is no in the current crisis scenario. So there is not telecommunication is not a good field to come. So yeah, that can be a one opinion from one side. So I think like otherwise, because telecommunicate in Sri Lanka, there are currently bit of step backward because of the current situation, dollar crisis and that economic crisis. So otherwise, Sri Lanka will because some of them they have planned the 5G sites way beyond not this year, few years back. So because of the crisis, we are lagging back. So because in Sri Lanka there are no opportunities, not much opportunities or technical advancement, I am not saying telecommunication is not a good field to choose. It is a good field to choose because telecommunication jobs, there are very like limited jobs. So in the world, so there are high demand on that jobs. So you can take a high salary if you need. So, but you have to learn specific skills for that. So not only specific skills, like technological skills, you have to technological skill as well as the people management, project management skills as well. Because sometimes as an engineer, telecommunication engineer, you have to manage the people and the project and the solution, all the things together. Either you become a like let's say solution engineer or something, you have to designation might be a different, but you have to manage the project and the people and the cost management and all the stuff you have to manage, because there are technology skill is a must, but more than technology skills, you have to learn the soft skills. That is the most hardest thing you have to, because you have to gain experience, you have to talk with the higher experienced guys, knowledgeable guys. So you have to work with different people, some because some people like, let's say one is different to another people response, so we have to manage them all. So soft skill development is a must, you have to do. Also some if you have like presentation skills, also a must, because if you have good presentation skills, so it will be very easy to, you know, for as a student you go outside, because you have to at the first interview, so you have to convince them what you have, because you have like very 6 months of training. So you have like most of them like industry, there is not, industry is not like we cannot learn in the industry, because we learn, nobody teach you, so we have to teach by ourselves. So we have to talk to people, so we have to gather knowledge. So likewise, so we have to have soft skill is the most important thing when we in my opinion, soft skill is most important thing in the industry when you come to industry. So another thing is like, you don't need to hurry to go to a positions. Like let's say you need when a new graduate said I want to high salary like 2 lakhs 3 lakhs 4 lakhs, so you don't need to be hurried. So money will come if you do the work right. If you do approach in the right way, money will come to you. So that's the main advice I need to give those, because I know it's very hard to live in this days in Sri Lanka, but yeah, it's very hard to live in Sri Lanka, but you know it will come when you go up. You need to climb the ladder. To climb the ladder, you have to know gain the skills, because you cannot go first step to 1,000 steps on one day. You have to be patient. Another thing is like when you go to the industry, yeah, in the industry you have to, let's say you're working in 1 year, so after 1 year you know what when how this industry going. So what is the next technology, what is the next advancement, so you can learn that. So then you have skills others don't have, so you can demand yourself. So you have some knowledge when those people don't, others don't, so then you can get those other benefits. It will come eventually. So I my advice is for new engineers, go to the field, learn something. After learning something, you have to decide. So that's my main advice to the newcomers to field.
What are the best companies in Sri Lanka for IT undergraduates for internships and as well as long-term employment?
So some of the companies, Huawei, I know like it is a good company. It's a, like I worked around 2 years in Huawei, so I have trained some trainees on Moratuwa University, some trainees on Japura University. So their training schedule is very unique. So you can get the hands-on experience and project management skills, technological experience, and let's say like services and all this areas they can have they can touch. So like I'm mostly recommending Huawei, then Dialog, SLT, Mobitel. Then about those are the telecommunication companies. If you want to go cloud side, you can also like ADL. It's also Dialog company, ADL. So in you going to cloud side, you can choose like if you're choosing DevOps, you can apply to software companies as well, Cisco 99X, WSO2 as well. So those are for cloud technologies. When you go into DevOps side, other cloud technologies, if you're working with carriers and those other cloud technologies, you can use Huawei. You can get Huawei, then Dialog, Mobitel, SLT, ZT. Those we can have internship programs on that as well.
So, Mr. Govin, what advice do you have for an undergraduate hoping to follow master's or PhD studies?
So, I would say if an undergraduate want to do a master's or PhD, I would say like you have to come to the field first. Come to the field, learn around work 1 year, 2 year. You can then you know what is the area you have to study, because when you pass out as a fresh graduate, you don't have any idea about the field. So you need to, let's say you like to be a telecommunication engineer, because what I say, because what other people say. So when you come to the industry, you might not like, because of the working environment or some scenario. You can be anything like that, salary or the work or the anything be like that. But when you in the industry around 1 to 2 years, if you who want to change the industry, you know how to change the industry. So you can do a master's on what is it, like let's say you want to be a software engineer after 1 or 2 years after telecommunication engineering, so you can do a master's on that. So so you be a data analytics, you can do a master's on that area as well. So if you want to be a telecommunication engineer, you have to let's say you have to can master cloud technologies, fiber, 5G, 6G. You can do like that. So I'm telling, like, if to new undergraduates, you have to don't choose it's my opinion, it can be different opinions, don't choose a master's program to as soon as they're out of the university. You can use, like, stay 1 year. 1 year is more than enough to know. So then after that you can choose any area you like. So that is my opinion. So when you say go if you choose to go abroad, you can choose, like, Australia. Most people going now, the trend is like Australia, Canada, UK. It might be different in another year, another 2 years, it might be different. But choose the program using the content, its content. After you in the industry, you know what you need to learn. You need to do a background research on that area. You have to do the background research. After that you use the curriculum to check. After that you apply. Otherwise it's a waste of money, a waste of time as well. So that's the most important thing I have to tell you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rubin, for sharing your knowledge with us today. It was indeed a very informative session, and I'm sure it was truly an inspirational session for all undergraduates listening in. So stay tuned with the Career Connect podcast series for more interesting interviews. Thank you.
Thank you.